Shalom everybody, this is a very special video. Last night we did a live on TikTok overviewing Yuri's Ilanot. Yiri is now up-and-coming Mechubel who traveled all the way from the Netherlands to meet me and share with me his Elan and for me to overview it and give him approval. He has recently started a YouTube channel called Kabbalah Academy, which anyone looking for the mysteries, I would encourage you guys to go check out there. In addition to that, as always, if you're seeking to get into the deeper mysteries regarding this channel or the authentic Kabbalah, you will find a link down below to school.com/Yirah. That's SKOOL.com/Yirah, where we have over 500 lessons. But without further ado, I'd like to share with you all a glimpse of the review of the Ilan of Yiri from the Netherlands. Enjoy. So in the meantime, while we're waiting for people to join in, so these are the original sections describing the Adam Elyon and Adam Kadmon. And what's incredible about what Eitz Chaim says is that Eitz Chaim states specifically that the Adam Elyon actually enters in through the first restriction and then stands before the Techamim. He stands before the abyss and actually begins to emanate that way. What I mean by that is it says that he stood before the edge of the Techamim, which in some places we call the Techom and in other places we call it Techiru. And this is during the process of restriction, and then ultimately he emanates the lower worlds, which are all from him and attached to him through him. And because he's the first level, or the first partsuf that emanated from the Ein itself, he's identified as the Ein. And so therefore, in a variety of different places, the sages say that the Adam Elyon is the Malbush of the illimitable. And that's where the idea of Israel, my firstborn, and similarly in the beginning when Israel arose in thought, because all of this and the restriction is called Machshava. And because it's called Machshava, it means thought. And so therefore when Israel, we know as Yesh, the substance, of Resh, Lamed, Aleph, or the 231, these are the gates. And as a result of this, that's the divine pattern, as you know. That divine pattern is precisely what's being talked about here and what's being explained. The divine pattern was the form of the Adam Elyon. However, in essence, there is a bit of machloches, like a controversy regarding how it was first emanated. Was the initial primordial form the aspect of the 231 gates, or was the initial aspect of Aleph separates one from Shin? And the reconciliation to that is that it would be Aleph separates one from Shin, because the letters would enter in through a series of phases, 3, 7, and 12, as opposed to the tree on top of tree, as we know, with the 22 letters. So when the 231 gates would actually emanate in and take the supernal form of the tree of the face in the Keter, the tree of the body, that is only after the initial primordial aspects would come in. And so then therefore the true primordial level would be this representation of the Adam Elyon. And as we know, the mother letters, because they are superior to the tree of life and superior to the sphere which we call emanation, being Aleph, Mem, and Shin, they personify the secret of what was said in Sefer Yetzirah, that the Rosh was from Aish, or the head was from fire, and the chest was from air, and the stomach was from Mayim, and so on and so forth, because the word head, or Rosh, contains Aish, fire, and the letter Shin. This is also what they said when Rosh is an allusion to Ehiyah, Asher Ehiyah, which was Keter, Chachma, and Bina, because Asher is a saruf or permutation of the word Rosh. Right. And so then therefore Shin was personified with that. And so the direction of the Shin is Keter, Chachma, Bina, its base is Da'as. And then Aleph, of course, would be Chesed, Gavura, and Tiferet. Mem would be Netzachod, and then Yisod, and then the Mem Sofit would be Malchus. And so we find that the divine pattern takes in this. And all of this is called Yirah. And for this reason, Yirah is the gematria of Ha'adam Elyon. And Ha'adam Elyon is the exact wording that's used in Eitz HaChaim to describe the supernal man. And because it's, as we know, there's Adam and Adam. And many people think Adam, they think Adam Arishon. When we talk of Adam, we talk about Adam Elyon, the most primordial of primordials, because as Ramchal states in Kenot Hashem Zava'ot, and as Chaim Vital states inside of Sefer Eitz HaChaim, that the illimitable one placed himself inside of the supernal form of a man, of a human being. And that is the supernal spherot, with an array of 10 sferot, although it comes to include Da'as. It'll be 11. Yep, and all of this is according to that. So, this is very advanced material. Another very important thing to know, as you know about the 231 gates, is that they have the numerical value of 72, 63, 45, and 52. And that's the same numerical value as the word Tehiru, which were the primordial partsus of Abba, Ima, and of course we know Drampen and Nukva. And then the word Ein, which is the illimitable, it's Miluim, which has been made known to you, that refers to an emanation, is also the value of 231. Yep.
Good.
So, well, it seems like we are live. I don't know how many people are in the live or watching right now, but we will hopefully wait for a couple more people to come in, and then we'll get started. So if none of you guys know what is going on, this here is Yuri. He has traveled from the Netherlands here to share something and get validated or certified what he's been working on. So I'll let Yuri explain a little bit about himself and his journey here and how he came to be.
Yes, so my name is Yuri, and my path really started by looking at all the belief systems. Something was always off, right? Something was not adding up. And from here to there to Judaism. In Judaism, I came to find out that I didn't have enough understanding of the Hebrew letters and of the abbreviations. So I started translating for famous Rabbi Mendel Kessin, and thereby I learned to manage to get a certain basic knowledge of the abbreviations, and this is kind of how I rolled in. And from there I went to the Tanya, from the Tanya I went to the Kabbalah, and from the mainstream Kabbalah I found Yirah. And I can tell you honestly, there's nothing quite like it. So yeah, really fascinated by the crown jewel and the Aleph mention, of course, in awe. I had only one choice, is to fully dedicate myself to that and try to learn, be as good as a student possible, and go and work with the letters myself. So that's what I did, and now on my way to finishing the second scroll, Ilan, and which we'll present to you in a little bit.
Yes, and so for those of you that don't know what an Elan is, on my channel you may see these massive scrolls. They're 45 feet long. And Elan comes from the Aramaic word for tree. It's basically a Kabbalistic roadmap of the divine science. And in order for you to actually be instructed in true and authentic Kabbalah, you must have an Elan. So Yirah here, as he mentioned, is presenting his second Elan. And he came from the Netherlands to bring this Elan, so to check it and to verify it and to ensure that it is correct and true. And so what you guys who are watching here will witness tonight is an Elan being revealed. This is something that's very, very, very rare. There are no Mekabbalim, no real Kabbalists in today's day and age. Many people who call the term Kabbalah do a great disservice to it. Our sages say that a sage is preferred over a prophet. So when someone says that they're a Kabbalist, they're essentially saying, well, I can make the prophet Isaiah, or I can make the prophet Ezekiel, which is an absurd statement. However, during the times of Shlomo Melech, there was a school of prophecy, and therefore you could go to school to become a prophet in the same way you could go to school to learn engineering. The general idea is that there's a linear and methodology to obtaining these prophetic states. So how do we actually get to that? And that, of course, is through the divine science of the Elanot. The Elan is essentially the map, because Kabbalah is not a philosophy, it's a divine science. And these scrolls are the roadmap of that divine science. And it takes many, many, many years of study in order for you to actually obtain the merit to create one. And in order for you to be a Mekabel, you must create your own Elan. And it doesn't mean just create, artistically express yourself. No, you need to show the science. Meaning, if you can think of a final exam, in order for you to have that classification as a Mekabel and be recognized by other Mekabelim who each have their own Elan and each understand the divine science, you yourself must have this Elan. So he's brought one, so I think this would be a great time to give you guys a show of that.
Yes,
So
this is the Torah.
We'll roll.
Yeah.
We'll roll this up out here. Malachi, if you will just grab this side, and Yuri, I'll have you.
I'll stand on the side.
No.
No.
We'll have you explain it as we go through.
Okay,
So let's come this way. Where? Come follow me. We'll come into here. You can get a behind the scenes look. You guys can see all the Ark of the Covenant and everything else over here.
Yeah, we have the Michael statue.
Yeah, so you guys are seeing behind the scenes stuff no one gets to see. Okay, Malachi, if you will take this side of the Elan and then begin to roll it out, we'll have you love come to the side so you can show this, and then Yuri, we'll have you explain
Yes.
what it is that you've shown.
So we start with the top piece, which shows various things. First thing you might notice, can be various things, of course. The crown jewel is in here, depicted. So, as we see, we have here the three mother letters, Aleph, Mem, Shin, right? To these mother letters are connected the 12 elemental letters. These are these 12 here. Then we have the 7 double letters, which are the restitutional, which I didn't point out. What you also can see here is Mashiach ben Yosef, Mashiach ben David, and Harai Mahemna, Melech HaMashiach, who wears the crown, center column, right, left, Okay, so I think that would be good to leave it with that on this part. Descriptions here. Here you can see a full tree and all the Sefirot are named in it. So this Keter, Chochmah, Bina, Das, the 11th, right? So Das is like not considered among the 10, but Das is the outcome of the unification between Chochmah and Bina. Okay, so a center column outcome thereof. Then we have this is the Rosh, by the way, which is the head. So then we have the next Parsuf, which is Zerampin, which is Chesed Gevura, Tiferes Netzachot, and Yesoid, working upon the Malchut, which is the 7th. Here you can see this is the rose, Shoshana. What Yirah just explained to you also is here mapped out, where you can see literally that the Shin stands with the Yud comes from the Shin, and the Hey from the Aleph, and the Vav equals the Mem, and the Hey equals the Mem Sofit. So this one you see here, Adam, Belial, and these are various processes. This is for me very technical still, so I think Yirah could help me out here, but what I can tell you is that this side is depicted Batzel. So Batzel are various Patsufim, Bila, Rachel, Zilpa, and Leah. Okay, Yaakov is also mentioned, and Joseph. This is very technical. I'm not going to dive into it deeply here, but this is really packed with a whole lot of information that is really way even beyond my scope. So, but here's the master who can teach about the deeper.
Sure.
Thanks.
Well, I'll trip this with you.
Right, sure.
You guys just hold this tight so it's not loose there. No, you got a good shot. Okay. So basically what he was explaining is that it's written Vayomer Elohim Yehur V'Yehur. In the beginning, God said, let there be light, there was light. And so there's this idea that reality came into existence through what we call the Lashon HaKodesh, or the Holy Tongue. Now, as with any language, it's an amalgamation of letters, and therefore our primary study begins in the secret of those letters. This is what's written. He wraps himself in light, and it's also written, Vayera Elohim et Or Kitov, which means God saw the light, that it was good. This light, it doesn't just say Ha'or, it says Et Ha'or. Now, the modern scholars say Et doesn't have a translation, but Et is Aleph and Tav, meaning the first and last letter of the Hebrew alphabet. So what is being shown here is the array of the 22 letters according to the 3 mother letters, the 7 double letters, and the 12 elemental letters. Thus you'll see the word Ein. Ein is the first stage of existence. It means the illimitable. It means nothing. It's the infinite nothing. It's the absolute potential of all things, but the manifestation of nothing. And that was the first stage of reality. So the next portion of this is what's called the Simsum, or the restriction or contraction. Thus you'll see over here that it says Techomim Beyamim. Techomim means the abysses, and Yamim means the seas. And these concentric circles are the contraction of the illimitable, the contraction of the endless light to create a vacancy where there was no vacancy, a space where there was no space. And these are the heights of each of these restrictions and the root, or shirosh as we call it, of all of the various partsufim that need to be understood within inside of the Kabbalah. Everything from the top where we're talking about Adam Kadmon, all the way down to the very bottom when we're talking about the Nukva. What is shown here is the partsufim called Zeranpin, and its array with its subpartsufs of Leah, Zilpa, Rachel, and Bila. A very advanced concept that takes place inside of the heights of the Lurianic Kabbalah. So, as he mentioned also, there's the secret of the partsufim of Yosef, which is mentioned here. But nonetheless, moving from this contraction, we also see these 4 words here. When it talks about Adam Balial and Adam Kedusha, this is the sod of the verse of what is written, he created the one as well as the other. The general idea behind that is the height of the darkness is the height of the light. because when the first restriction occurred, it was all in darkness. That's why the Arizal said the klipa, or the husk, precedes the fruit. It's the reason why darkness precedes light. It's the reason why, for example, Cain came before Havel. It's the reason why Esav came before Yaakov. It's the reason why Ishmael came before Yitzhak. And the land of Canaan precedes the land of Israel, because darkness comes first. The very first verse was in darkness. And then what is written? Let there be light. It's written, Vayomer Elohim Yehior v'Yehior. But in the beginning there was no light. It was darkness. Then light. And so therefore the height of the darkness is the height of the light. And that's what he was hinting to Adam Balial and Adam Kedusha. Now, Western occultists who've perverted, as I said, there really is no Western occultism, it's just appropriated Judaism by people that don't understand anything. They call Adam Balial a demon. They have no idea what Balial even means. Bali means nothing. Nothing. So Adam Balial, and how do we know this? Because Sefer Yetzirah tells us 10 spheros from Balima, 10 sephiros from nothing. So therefore Adam Balial means Adam Bali, of the nothing, Al of the upper, meaning Adam of the upper nothing, meaning the principle of potential before manifestation. And so therefore that's the true essence of Adam Balial. And his height is that of Adam Kedusha, which we talk about in Tikkun. Now these are incredibly advanced concepts, and I usually don't talk about any of this stuff because outside of private circles. But for the sake of this live and due to the nature of us showing this Elan, I'm giving you guys kind of a play-by-play as to what we're looking at here. Beneath here you'll see the names of 72, 63, 45, and 52. These are the roots of the 4 letters of the divine name. In Luriana Kabbalah, 72, 63, 45, 52 are personifications of the expansion of God's name. It can be expanded in a variety of ways, and they're symbols of the worlds of Atzilut, Bariah, Yetzirah, and Asiyah. Their total number is 232, which is 231 Im Kolel. It deals with something called the Tehiru, or vacancy. And the Tehiru, or this vacancy, the place of its contraction, also has the same numerical value of 72, 63, 45, 52. So the height of the worlds was the depth of the vacancy. This follows the next pattern. So what's being shown here is the 72, 63, 45, and 52 names. They take the divine pattern of the 22 letters in what we call the Malbush. This Malbush is mentioned in very advanced Kabbalistic texts, for example in Emek, Hamelech, so on and so forth, and it is called the Malbush of the Illimitable. It's when the 22 letters, or the 231 gates, became the garment of Hashem. Now what are these 231 gates and how are they mentioned? It is written in the beginning when Israel arose in thought. This is an allusion to the primordial beginning, for essentially the restriction is seen as the makshava, or the mind. The 231 is hinted in the word Israel. Israel is spelled Yud Shin, which means substance, Yesh. The remaining letters, Reish Lamed Aleph, is 231. This is what the prophet said. He declared the end from the beginning. And this is also why the word Bereshis, in the beginning, begins with the letter Beit, which means 2. Because Bereshis, in the beginning, can be read as second beginning. The first beginning, referring to, as the prophet Isaiah said, he declared the end from the beginning, hinting to the final word of the Torah, Israel. Therefore, this is the divine Malbush. Now, moving on from here, we have another representation of the Simsum, another representation of the restriction. And this particular version of the restriction is an amalgamation of the first letter of all the Sfirot. And this is how it used to be traditionally displayed. So this is a Kaf, which is Keter, and then there's a Chet, which is Chochmah, Beit for Bina, Dalet for Da'as, all the way down to a Mem at the very inner side of it for Malchus. He has over here the 231 gates shown. Now, what is the 231 gates? The 231 gates represent the amount of possibilities between 22 letters to mix with Aleph with every letter with Aleph, Beit with every letter with Beit. We shouldn't think of these things as letters because there actually aren't any manifestations of letters at this point. Rather, they're expressions of principalities. And that these principalities, or laws, for lack of better terms, represent the potential. So these are the potentials intermingling to create a spectrum of possibility. And therefore, the 231 are the number of combinations in which all 22 letters can come into contact with each other at the first order of magnitude. And so we shouldn't see this aleph with every letter with aleph, like Sefer Yetzirah says, but rather aleph comes from the word avir, means air. And therefore we should see it as the principle of air, or the principle of gases, with every principle is the principle of gases. We shouldn't see mem and think of it as a letter. We should understand mem means mayim, water. Therefore the principle of liquids with everything with the principle of liquids, so on and so forth. Based off of that understanding, the 231 gates represents the first order of magnitude and the potential of possibility. Nothing can exist without being accounted for. Everything here has to be accounted for in code. Because of course, as we know, we're living inside of a program. Nonetheless, moving forward, this begins to show the process of emanation of what we call the holy, the atik. This is the rosh, or the head. And so what's being shown here are the 7 letters with a tagin that Rabbi Akiva had hinted at. These are Shin, Tet, Nun, Ayin, Zayin, Sadi, and Gimel. These 3 spell Satan. This is Azazel. The 2 Sadiqs are the 2 Mashiachin, and the Gimel is the camel serpent that Samael rode down on. These are the 7 holes in the face. This is the head of the Atik, or the head of God. This is exactly why, just as there are 22 letters that form the skull of the illimitable Holy One, so too you have 22 bones in your skull. There are exactly 22 bones in your skull. Okay? And just as there are 7 that emerge first, which we call the 7 kings of Edom, very advanced subject, there are 7 holes in our skull. Our 2 eyes, our 2 nostrils, our 2 ears, and our mouth. So there are 22 bones in our skull, and then there are 7 holes from which surface the face. This is God's head beginning to emerge, or at least the malbush of God. Of course, the illimitable essence of it has no form, but nonetheless, the atik. Down below, we see another representation, as he's shown here, of the restriction plus the skull. And so now we see the restriction, but now we have the hard spark, because the illimitable had withdrawn itself when it created that vacancy precisely in the center, where it condensed. The light condensed and created depth. That depth is the height where all of the worlds will come into being. But at the bottom of that depth is a hard spark. The 231 gates is called that hard spark. So this is what he's showing here. Down here is another very advanced subject. The face of the king has a beard. That beard is called the beard of a Rechaim pin. It is a very, very, very lofty subject that is dealt in the Either Rabbah and Either Zuta of the Zohar. Very few people have ever heard of anything talking about the 13 tikkunim of the beard of a Rechaim pin, which is a very, very high partsuf and the overall structure of Adam Kadmon. Nonetheless, this is the showing of it. The 22 letters now are arranged in terms of fronts, panim, and acher, backs. So we'll come down just a little further. So what he's showing here now is the emergence of what are called 370 lights. These 370 lights, if you remember what was shown above about the kings of Shin, Tet, Nun, Ayin, Zayin, Sadi, and Gimel, these letters, or these kings that died, then begin to go through a process of tikkun or rectification. That tikkun or rectification comes about through the hard spark, or the light passing through. It's called the shining face of the king. And so if you can imagine a skull with the 22 letters and these holes, and behind it is the glowing light of the illimitable, and it's passing through. We call it the shining face. Now, that shining face, those rays of light, then entered into those letters, which are what those tagin represented are. That's why they're called crowns. The kings died without weapons, and why they're called kings. These letters then began the process of their tikkun, the construction. That construction was about the light that was infused in the hard spark, being 22 in number. Therefore, there are fronts and backs to each of the sfirot. And this is how all the sfirot have all the sfirot, because this is Chesed, Gevura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yisod, and Malkut. And as you can see, this is the roots of many different angels. Now these angels, God forbid, are not here in this realm. It's written he makes the wind his messengers, meaning Ruach. That's at a much lower world. But the root of all the angels takes place here. Because the word king, Malach, is like the word Malachim, an angel. Nonetheless, we can see here Adiriran, Badiran, Gediran, so on and so forth. And you'll see all 22 letters accounted for. 11 on the front, 11 on the back. And the same thing here, 11 front, 11 back, 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 11 front, 11 back. This is all 100% accurate. Now, when it talks about the spreading of the face, the shining face flows through 370 worlds. Sometimes they say 3,700,000 worlds. What is this 370? The answer to that question as to this portion of the Elan is that it is 22 times 7 plus 216, which is here. That's what he's showing here. This is what we call the Nukva. We call it the Shema Faresh, the 216 or 72 letter name of God. So 72 times 3 is the 216. So the 216 plus the 7 times 22, which are here, equals 370. And these are the 370 individual lights that spread or shine from the face. Now, most 99% of you, I would imagine, have never heard of any of these terms. And that's because the Zohar is not something that's publicly taught. It's not something that's publicly studied. It's a very esoteric sefer. And when most people try to study the Zohar, they call it a close practice, so on and so forth. Because it requires essentially a roadmap, as I've been explaining. And again, just for you that are joining in, this Yuri's, Elan is here. This is Yuri. He came from the Netherlands. And he came to visit to have confirmation on his Elan. He will be going back to the Netherlands in the future, in I think a week.
A week from now.
A week, yes. But he came all the way from the Netherlands to have verification on his scroll. This is his scroll. Maybe afterwards I'll share with you some of my scrolls, and you can see a comparison. But this is a demonstration of his attainment in the subject. And this is exactly what's required of Kabbalah. If you say you're a Kabbalist, you will have one of these, but there aren't any. There are people that enjoy studying Kabbalah, there's fans of Kabbalah.
Students.
Yeah, students. Yeah. You can want to study, you can read books on Kabbalah. It doesn't make you a mechubel. To be a real mechubel, you will have this. If you don't have this, then you don't have the right to talk about it. So, okay. We have the moon phases. We have the sun phases. This is the Shirosh of the male and the female, Zakar Nukva. And this is the sun and the moon, hinted at in the word Marot, the lights, so on and so forth. And so far, from what I am seeing, these right here are what's called the world of Nekudim. Nekudim means vowels or points, the world of points. We can see these are the vowels, and they're according to the Sfirot, which you should have here. Correct. Kater. That's Kamat. Okay, it's spelled Kof, Mem, Tadi, and indeed you have it correct. Kadomayel, Malachiel, Tzoriel. This is all correct.
Yes.
We have Patach, that's Chokmah. What does Patach mean? Open. It's open. That's Chokmah. And so we see down here, Patach, Fe, Tav, Chet, and this is the first letter of Padael, the first letter of Tomiel, and the first letter of Chesadiel. Now, these 28 letters, right, are the amount of letters of the names of each of the Nikud in the world of points, and it's symbolized by the 28 phases of the moon. These Malachim are not here. Their roots are here. The reason why these angels are mentioned on the outside is because these are the husks. They're the klipot of the internal Sharosh. They don't manifest here, just like none of these angels are manifested here. They're just roots in the beard. That's the hairs they come from. And then the sun. And so then the sun is more straightforward. You're going to see the listing of the 12 tribes, the names of the angels above them. And then surrounding this, we're going to have a listing of the various malachim that are going there in the Secret of 72. So, yes, this is incredible. This is incredible. And I see you're all the way up. Well, we won't talk about what that is.
Next. Yeah.
But we'll go ahead and wrap that in. That's incredible. You've done a wonderful job, Achi.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, seeing it firsthand, I see the attention to detail.
Yeah.
Good teacher.
Thank you. So, and then I'll show you one of mine. Perfect.